the psalmist said in Psalm 104 verse 24, "O Lord, how manifold are your works. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your possessions." After the Jurassic period came the Cretaceous period in the Mesozoic era. The Cretaceous period began about 130 million years ago and is the last period of the Mesozoic era. It was called Cretaceous, meaning chalk, because the rocks of this time were rich in chalk deposits. Volcanic activity led to the formation of the Rocky Mountains, the Andes, and mountains in Antarctica and Northeast Asia. The final separation of the supercontinent took place at this time, but it was not until the end of the Cretaceous period that the continents began to assume the shapes they now have. Skeletal remains of Cretaceous dinosaurs found both in North America and Europe offer evidence that the two continents were connected in some way during this period. Other large portions of today's continent were submerged under shallow waters during the Cretaceous period. The climate of this period in most parts of the earth was mild and warm. This contributed to the growth of many new kinds of plants and in turn to the increase in animal life. The dominance of reptiles reached its peak in the Cretaceous period, but for some mysterious reason, after 140 million years of success, all dinosaurs suddenly plunged to their extinction. Scientists continue to speculate about the disappearance of these fascinating creatures. What makes it more puzzling still is the fact that other reptiles appearing at about the same time as the dinosaurs survived to the present. The common turtle is an example. Plant life made major advances during this time. The very first flowering plants appeared at the beginning of the Cretaceous period. Trees resembling the walnut, oak, elm, magnolia, and maple tree developed. Bushes and shrubs grew profusely and provided protection for birds and other animals. An example of a newly developed plant in the Cretaceous period was Vibranum. Here, the Vibranum, which belongs to the same family as the modern honeysuckle of today. Stylaster, here, was a form of coral well represented by modern related types. It was a cnidarian, that is a coelenterate of the Cretaceous period. It was slender with many symmetrical branches. It developed at the close of the Mesozoic era when many types of coral became extinct. Mollusks were the predominant marine animals of the Cretaceous period. They were both abundant and diversified. Clams and oysters of all kinds developed in great numbers. The Griffia here was a kind of mollusk. An unusual pelecypod or oyster lived only on the left side of its shells or valves. Griffia's left valve at first looked like the shell of a snail, but later on began to coil and increase in size. The right valve continued to be flat and could be opened and closed. In the latter part of the Cretaceous period, Griffia took on the shape of a cup. Some pelecypods were able to detach themselves from their shells, while others remained attached throughout their lives. The close of the Cretaceous period also marked the extinction of the Ammonites of the Jurassic period and the Belemnoids of the Triassic period. In the 1920s, an exciting event took place in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia. A nest of dinosaur eggs from the Cretaceous period was uncovered in the sand. For millions of years, these eggs had remained hidden. Some were large enough to hold 2 gallons of water. The eggs were so perfectly preserved that scientists were able to study the bones of the unborn baby dinosaurs. Before this important discovery, paleontologists did not have proof that dinosaurs laid eggs. Since this entire period was ruled by dinosaurs, it is often referred to as the Age of Reptiles. These creatures successfully invaded the land, the seas, and the air. Representatives of reptile life included the horned dinosaurs, the armored ankylosaurs, the herbivore duckbills, the fierce carnivores, the sea-going lizards, and the flying reptiles. Pteranodon was a typical flying reptile of the Cretaceous period, and it was one of the largest animals ever to fly. Its small body contrasted with huge wings that measured almost 30 feet across. One of the first to have a short tail and a beak instead of teeth. Pteranodon also had an unusual bony crest on the back of its head. The bony crest on the back of its head. Furthermore, it carried its food in a rather large pouch under its beak, which was 3 feet long. Many fossils of Pteranodon have been found in Kansas, in America. Flying reptiles eventually became extinct. However, the evolutionary process continued. Birds which were much more better adapted for flight prevailed. Tylosaurus was a lizard that's adapted totally to life in the water. Broad webbed feet and a powerful tail allowed Tylosaurus to slip quietly through the water in pursuit of its prey. Plates of bone shielded its head. Here, the plates of bone shielded its head, and lizard type scales. Here, these are the lizard type of scales found on the Tylosaurus's body. It masked its neck, trunk, and tail. So it covered the scales went all the way from its head to its trunk and all the way to its tail. With continual replacement, Tylosaurus's teeth were sharp, its jaws were double hinged, like those of a snake, so that it could open its mouth to its maximum and swallow an entire animal. The best fossil skeletons come from Kansas, although a complete skeleton was found in Holland in the 1700s. This is the Diplodocus. The Diplodocus means double beam. This is because of its long neck and its long tail. The enormous 20-ton herbivore measured 90 feet in length, and it took to the water where it could take the weight off its feet. In deep water, Diplodocus could reach down with its long snake-like neck to nibble on plants at the bottom or stretch up to the surface to take in air with a single nostril placed at the top of its head. Unfortunately, its small skull contained such a tiny brain that it was barely able to react to impressions received from its senses. Many footprints have been found in the mud where this mighty creature once searched for food. Plant-eating dinosaurs with strange duck-like bills appeared during the Cretaceous period. The scientific name for these reptiles, those are the plant-eating dinosaurs, is called hadrosaurs, but they are commonly called duckbills. Unlike ducks, these creatures had many rows of teeth. One specimen had 2,400 teeth in all. Although duckbills walked upright, webbed feet indicate that they were also swimmers. Duckbills had the most bizarre bony crest or horns on their heads. The fact that they were hollow brought forth the idea that these horns may have been used to store oxygen so that they could breathe underwater. This certainly would have been advantageous for an animal sharing its territory with ferocious meat-eating dinosaurs. Fossil remains of the hadrosaurs are quite common. In fact, almost completely formed skeletons have been found, revealing the shape of the body and even the texture of the skin. A common duckbill with a plume-like bony crest was Parasaurolophus. Here, the Ankylosaurus, a heavily armored dinosaur, measured 17 feet in length. Sharp pointed spines on its sides and a club-like tail protected it from its enemies. Bony plates covered its body and shielded its eyes and nose. Ankylosaurus squats, tank-like body, crept low, slow along all short, thick legs and hoofed feet. Its few teeth were so weak that it could only munch on soft plants. The largest of the flesh-eating dinosaurs was the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Here we have the largest of the flesh-eating dinosaurs, which is the Tyrannosaurus Rex. This lizard-hipped reptile stood 18 feet tall, weighed 8 to 10 tons, and measured 47 feet in length. It walked on 2 enormous legs, balanced by a gigantic massive tail, immense claws 3 to 4 inches long, the claws 3 to 4 inches long on each of its hind feet. With powerful jaws and 3 to 6 inch razor sharp teeth, Tyrannosaurus Rex could tear open flesh and crush the bones of the largest plant eater. Curiously, its front 2 legs were so tiny and frail as to be completely useless. Here, they are very tiny, we can barely see them, so they were completely useless. These were the front feet of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. This colossal reptile was not a particularly fast runner, but apparently it was fast enough to outrun its unfortunate victims. Its well-chosen name means king of the tyrant lizards. The Triceratops was appropriately named three-horn face because it had 1 horn on its nose, this tiny one up here, and 2 treacherous horns, 1, 2, which was 40 inches long above its eyes. With a powerful body, strong legs, and a raised collar of bone to protect its neck, Triceratops was well prepared for battle. Indeed, fossilized skeletal remains show Triceratops and Tyrannosaurus Rex buried together, suggesting that these creatures fought to death. So this Triceratops and Tyrannosaurus Rex fought to death. Who do you think won? Although Triceratops could charge and gouge Tyrannosaurus with its deadly horns, it endangered its own life by coming too close to Tyrannosaurus's powerful flesh-tearing teeth. Scars found on fossil bones also reveal that Triceratops fought with its many relatives who roamed areas of Wyoming, Colorado, and Montana during the Cretaceous period. One would think that Triceratops was a ferocious meat eater, but it fed on shrubby plants using its horny beak for clipping stems. Triceratops had the ability to continuously grow new teeth to fill in the old ones that had become dull and useless from grinding plants. During the Cretaceous period, there were many horned dinosaurs armed with varying sizes and shapes of horns on their heads. Even today, numerous animals protect themselves with horns. The Argyrolagus was a small marsupial, meaning pouched animal. So this means pouched animal. The Argyrolagus means pouched animal. Looks somewhat like the jerboa of Africa and Asia of today. It was a furry creature, which means it had hair all over it, with large feet for jumping. Look at the large feet, so long. Oversized ears and a very long tail. The Argyrolagus lived in the semi-arid regions of South America. Instead of laying eggs, these animals developed a different method of protecting and nourishing their offspring. The young embryos spent part of their developmental period inside the mother's body and rest in a special pouch or marsupium on the mother's abdomen, where they were nourished with milk until they reached maturity. From the marsupials evolved a mammal that could nourish and protect its young completely inside its body. The egg attached itself to its mother's uterus and a protective environment called a placenta was formed. Food and oxygen passed through the placenta, where the young embryo remained until fully mature. Placental mammal was the name given to this type of animal. The Oxyina was the first carnivorous placental mammal to appear at the end of the Cretaceous period. Its fur-covered body, so it was covered with fur again, that's hair, 3 feet long, had short legs with 5 toes on each of its small hoofed feet. So it had 5 toes. We can't see the toes clearly, but each of the legs had 5 toes. Scientists differ in opinion about the possible habits of this animal. Some think it may have lived like an otter feeding on fish. Others say it probably lived like a cat, hiding in the bushes and attacking its prey. But one fact is apparent: Oxyena was not a very clever creature because its brain was much too small. And there we have it for the Cretaceous period. We've seen different animals, the extinction of the dinosaurs here. We see the red line showing that the dinosaurs finally became extinct. So we do not have dinosaurs today. If anybody tells you that, it is not true. Over millions of years ago, the Cretaceous period saw the end of the dinosaurs and the introduction of a new way of mammals feeding their young ones, which is called the placenta. Next, we'll be moving to a new era, which is the Cenozoic era.